In today's episode of Free Mama Radio, I'm interviewing the amazing Emily Hirsh. Not only is she going to give you advice about how you can picture your dream life and just go for it, she's also getting into the nitty-gritty details about how she went from college dropout to virtual assistant to Facebook ads agency owner managing $85 million in revenue for her clients. Emily's going to bring her can-do attitude and positive inspiration to this interview, and I can't wait for you to check it out. You're listening to Free Mama Radio, where we believe you can have both a successful business and show up as the mom you want to be. I'm your host, Lauren Golden, a mom who built a full-time income working part-time hours. Now, I help other moms like you learn how to work from home on your own terms, take control of your schedule, and make more money so you can live a totally awesome, guilt-free life. I am on a mission to make sure that no mother has to choose between family and financial stability. So if you've been wondering, can I really have it all? This podcast will give you the answers. Emily, welcome to Free Mama Radio. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you're a mom. Awesome.
Yes.
So you actually got into this whole entrepreneurship world before becoming a mom. So how did you get started? Kind of take us back. What were the early days?
Yeah, I mean, I've honestly always been an entrepreneur, like literally since high school. I say it's in my blood. I really believe there's like an entrepreneur gene. So I was always coming up with business ideas, different ones, and I fell into the online world when I was actually pregnant with my son. And so that became a motivator. Like I had other businesses. I was a nanny. I was like doing this organizing thing. I was like 19. So it was all like all over the place. And then I fell into the online industry and started just virtual assistant because I've always been good at just like organizing, doing admin tasks. Like in high school, I had a job for my mom that was like that, and I was like, okay, well, I can do this virtually. And so I found it while I was pregnant, and then it became like, oh, this is a great opportunity because I can stay home when my son is born and still work and help support us. And so that's how I started. That's how I fell into it. And that's like what became the actual successful business. Cause I had like a bunch of ideas going too, like directions I could have gone, but the driving force was like, oh, it's virtual. I can do it here. Like we could move to, up to Northern California if we wanted to, because at the time we were in Southern California, and it gave us that freedom, which is why I went all in with the virtual thing.
I love it. And that's what so many women join the Free Mama community for, is how do I kind of have both? How do I have a little bit more control over my life and my lifestyle, how I spend my time, but also how much money I'm able to make?
Yeah.
So one of the things I happen to know about you, which I want to bring up because it's a big limiting belief inside of my community, is that you don't have a degree. You didn't finish college.
Yeah, I left college.
Can you tell us about that? What was that like at the time? What was that like with your family? And do you think that that has any sort of contributing factors to your success? Obviously not. Did it at the time? Were there any limiting beliefs for you, or were you confident in your decision?
Yeah. So I did 2 years of college, and then I left because I had my son, was doing my virtual assistant business and still trying to take online classes, only because it was like, everybody told me like, you got to have that degree. And my parents would tell me like, if you at least have the degree to fall back on when you fail, was basically what they were saying. And so I got to a point where I was like, why can't I just go back to college if I fail? Like, why don't I just try this and actually leave college? So I wish I did it sooner, because I stayed in long enough to where I was just like, why was I doing this? There was nothing beneficial for it for me, because I had already created a successful business that was growing really quickly. And so if I went back, like I would have quit a year before that, once I figured out the potential, but I didn't, because I had that like back of my head of my parents being like, you got to get your degree. Like that is the only way you're successful and stable in your life. And so I didn't quit until I had like almost a stable thing to go into. I mean, how much you consider business stable, but I had income coming in and clients, and it was growing. And so that's when I made the decision, like, well, I can't go to college and run my business and be a brand new mom. So something has to give, and my business is making me money. College is costing me money. So that's what's got to go.
I love that reality check, but I know so many people come into my community who maybe they didn't finish college, or they didn't even start college, and they wonder if that's something we have to have. And what I feel is really similar to what you were receiving from your parents, which is kind of this thing that society teaches us, right? Like you go to school, you get good grades, you go to college, you get a job, and like, that's it, right? And I love that. I think we're very like-minded in that we kind of challenge those societal norms. And, you can kind of blaze your own trail
Yeah.
if you believe in yourself and you can create something that other people value and will pay you for.
Yeah.
So your gateway was virtual assistants.
Yeah.
Now I would say, like, to me, you are synonymous with Facebook ads. Like, when I think of
Yeah.
Facebook ads, I think of you.
Well, that's good.
That is good. It means you're really doing a great job. How did you get there, though? What did that transition look like? And yeah, get started. And I'm sure I'll have 1 million questions for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything.
So, I mean, I was doing the virtual assistant stuff with clients. And then I had a couple clients who were like, well, we want to do, Facebook ads. We don't have somebody. And like, would you try this? And so really it became just experience. I was able to be like, yeah, I can figure out how to set up a campaign. And then it was like, oh, these are really working very well. Like, I'm getting 50-cent opt-ins. It was like, 4 or 5 years ago when that was easy to do. And it just became like I got experience. So I would do that with one client. I get these good results. And then I'd start replying to people who wanted Facebook ads and be like, I can do Facebook ads. Here's the results I've gotten. And then I take them on. And then it just started taking off where that was like my thing. Now, marketing definitely comes natural to me. Like, my brain thinks in that marketing mindset, sales psychology, and all of that. And so I jumped on it because I loved it and it was easy for me. But everything I've done is self-taught. And a lot of it has been through the experience of actually doing it. Like, I get asked that all the time, like, how did you learn? And it wasn't like one, magical course that taught me everything. It was the experience of like setting up the campaigns, like going through it, failing at it, like YouTube videos, like figuring it out, and then seeing what happened, and then taking that knowledge and just building on top of it over the years. And then I eventually obviously got to a point where it was like, well, I need a team and I've got to teach my team how to do this. And now I actually don't do the Facebook ads anymore. Like, I haven't been an ads manager in forever, but I still do the high level strategy and the marketing, which is what I really love.
Oh my gosh, this is so good. Okay, I just can't even write fast enough. I have so many questions. So one of the things you touched on that I love, because I say this all the time, I think one of the biggest indicators of success is having a willingness to figure something out.
Yeah.
Instead, you're like, I'm working with people as a VA. They're asking me if I can do this thing. And instead of being like, no, I don't know how to do that, or no, I've never done it before, you had this willingness to get your hands dirty, roll up your sleeves, and figure it out. And I love that. You said there wasn't one magic Facebook course, which is probably good because it's probably outdated by now, as we know the way ads work. But at what point did, you referenced YouTube videos. When did mentors or coaching, like at what point were you like, I do actually need to invest in, you talked about outsourcing, which is a way of investing, but when did you know that it was time to up level so that you could continue to grow?
Yeah. So I definitely bought like online courses, and I would listen to podcasts and stuff at the very beginning. So at the same time of doing those YouTube videos, like, I'd buy digital courses to teach myself how to do it. In terms of investing in like an actual coach, I was almost at $1 million, which I'm kind of an anomaly there. Like, people are like, well, do you think that's what you should do? I'm like, I don't know, but that's what I did because I got to a point where I felt like I don't know how to keep going. I don't know how to take myself to the next level. Like, I hustled and I grinded and I got myself to where I am, but I don't even know what, the next 6 months should look like to keep growing, which for me was team building. I knew how to do all of this. I could figure it out, and I had no idea how to grow the team. So that's when I actually hired my first mentor one-on-one. So I feel like the best time to do it is when you get to a point where you're like, I took myself as far as I could and I'm successful, at least to an extent there. And now I need help with like whatever that next step is for you.
I love that. So you have an amazing podcast that I make the time to listen to from time to time because it's just always so on point, so on trend. So thank you for that resource for me personally. But I remember, and it's been a long time, but maybe even a year or two ago, you did an episode about kind of the challenges of starting to grow a team and some of the unsurprising ones that, your margins start to change in your business. And, you might've been working a lot, but it was like, it was yours. And some of those things. What were some of the biggest pain points you've experienced with adding a team? And I'd love for you to say this in terms of like, what was your responsibility and what did you do differently? And what were your expectations of your team and kind of how did you communicate that?
Yeah. So I think that was my journey to 1 to 3 million podcast where I was like, there definitely was. It's so interesting. You like start making all this money and you're like, it's going so well. And you think you're going to be there forever. Like, my biggest advice is like, it's going to change. Like, if someone would have told me like, today is not how it's going to be in a year from now, like, save the money, be smart, your business is going to change, I would go back and remember that. And now I'm in that place, I'm like, I know that today, if cash flow is really good, I will be in a place where it's not. Again, that's just like the reality of business. And so you have to be smart today when it's good. So yeah, as far as team building, like it's been the best learning experience for me. I think the biggest thing that I had to learn and go through was how do I set expectations for team members? Because you think like they'll just come in and know what I want and they'll, read my mind, or I can say one thing and they got it, but that's not the reality. And so I definitely made a lot of mistakes in not having good enough training and communication and expectations set out for people. And so over time, I just offloaded like one thing at a time, to the point now where everything, like from my sales to my marketing to my delivery, my business truly could run without me. And that's like the ultimate goal, is you get there. And I'm obviously still involved, but at a very high level. And I could say like, I need the month of May off or something and be able to do that. And the important thing is not only would we sustain, but we'd grow. Like you want to be in a place where you're still growing without you. So I just started with the first thing. Like, so it was actually my second child when I started. Each of my kids have been a milestone.
Right?
And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need to get help. And so one of the things is I was on a ton of like sales calls. And for me, I was taking all the sales calls. And I knew after having my daughter, like I had to limit the amount of calls I was on because I had her most of the day. So that was one of the first things I hired. But it's going to be different for everyone. It's like, what's taking the most of your time that you could offload? And that should be like the first thing that you do. My next was ads manager to help me with the actual like client work behind the scenes. So that's how I've kind of pieced it together over time. I mean, I had no idea how to grow a team. Like it wasn't like I had this structure of like, I'm going to have an agency and this is exactly how it's going to be structured. It's just been figured out as I go. And it's still like that. We're moving from 2 ads teams to 3. And it's like, okay, how do we do that? We got to put, 6 ads managers temporarily and then move it over like this. And it's still like, we're figuring it out.
Yeah, I love that. That's one of the things I wrote down. You've said a couple times. And I think that's what so many people are afraid of. They're afraid not to have it perfect before they start. I love that you keep hitting home on this, that you're constantly evolving, you're constantly figuring it out and then reevaluating to make it better and better. So for all the moms listening right now, maybe we've got some people listening who are still considering starting a freelancing business. What's your best advice to them, not only from your early days as a virtual assistant, but now as someone who actually hires free mamas and freelancers to maybe come onto your team? What's your best advice for those people getting started? How can they appeal to someone like you?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the best thing, like when we hire people, we're looking at your experience. And so getting your hands dirty, just like, even if you have to do, like you offer someone, like, I'll help you for 5 hours to learn this thing as a trade or something, if that's what you have to do to have that first experience, because once you get that, like you become so much more valuable.
Yeah.
When you have nothing, that's where it's hard to like get in the door. But you can get in the door by saying like, hey, I'll do this for you, for free or for discounted just one time. Don't discount your services for a long time, but just enough like for you to learn. Because, I was doing Facebook ads for the price of a VA, which is like a huge discount for those clients. But I didn't know what, that's what they should have been paying. They gave me the gift of letting me try and learn and use their business and their money really with Facebook ads to learn, and in exchange they weren't paying management or agency fees. And so there's people who are willing to do that, and you just have to get out there. You just have to network. I grew all my clients in the beginning through Facebook groups, like through responding to people looking for something, building relationships with them. I didn't do any marketing. It was really just, I'd go in, I had every day a process. I'd look in the Facebook groups for posts that had keywords of like VA or Facebook ad as I grew, and I just respond. And you'd be surprised, because we do a lot of hiring, how many people don't stand out. So if you just make yourself stand out and sound, nice and professional and friendly and position it at how you can solve their problem and help them, you'll get in the door quickly, and you just have to do 1 or 2 things. And then you just build off that experience as you go, and you just continue to grow if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. And one of the other things, the word that came to mind for me, when you get that experience, yeah, you have the knowledge, but you also gain more confidence. And I see a real lack of confidence in a lot of women before they start. So there's a lot of different benefits to just taking a risk and being like, you know what, I'm not going to get paid, but this is going to set the foundation for a really positive and strong future just by getting in and actually learning it. So you've done a lot of different things. Now you're like 100% all in with your business and your team. What did that transition look like? Because you've built stuff that I've seen on the internet. I actually think the first time I came across your name, Emily, I actually think you were maybe doing a collaboration with somebody. I think you had maybe a joint product. I don't remember what it was called. Hopefully you know what I'm talking
Probably.
about.
Maybe it was like Funnel Playground with Lindsay Padilla. Is that what you were
Was
thinking
she
of?
a copywriter maybe? And you were
No,
or
no, but I mean, yeah, like I've done a lot of that stuff.
yeah. What is that like? You know, Russell Brunson, who I got to interview for this podcast as well, he's one of my mentors. He talks about, and I don't love the way he says this, but he talks about killing your babies. Sometimes
Yes.
to be successful in business,
Yeah.
you have to kill your babies. So how did you go from this VA who at one point, I think you even had a VA course, and then you've
Yep.
had these collaborations and these partnerships to now you're like, no, like it is Hirsh Marketing. We run Facebook ads. We do millions and millions of dollars. And I have my Hirsh process that like is just a staple. Like what was that evolution like for you in actuality, but also
Yeah.
maybe some mindset changes you had to make along the
For
way?
sure. Yeah. And I mean, as an entrepreneur, you have so many ideas and everyone struggles with that. And there's always like other opportunities. And sometimes you think yourself like it's a great idea and I should go do this and I should explore this. For me, it took like the mentors to tell me like no. And Russell Brunson too, I was in his inner circle as well. And that's a common theme for a lot of entrepreneurs is you got to focus. Like you got to kill the babies and not, have all these different projects. So I had people to tell me that. And I had to, be like that reality check because you think it's a great idea and you're like, why can't I do both and make money with both and multiple streams of income? But now I'm really very strict about that. So for me, I was a virtual assistant and then I started doing the Facebook ads and I just saw that that was making more money and that was more valuable because it's a strategic skill versus like a tactical skill. So I still kept trying to do both for a while. And then I was like, well, I can't do both. And this one's making me more money. So I went in that direction. But within that, I thought like, I got to have a product, like you said, collaboration, different things. And every time, I think I've just learned over time, it just takes away from your core thing, any distraction you have. So now my rule for our clients, we have to have this conversation all the time. And for myself is I will only go after the same avatar, the same ideal customer. They can be at different levels because now I do have like a done with you course and our agency. They can be at different levels, but it's that person. Like it's not having two different businesses going after moms and then business owners. Like that would be just what you can't do it as one person. And every time you have that distraction, you just have to understand you're taking away time, energy, and money from the main thing that's already working. So we tell people like, unless you've made $1 million, you should have one offer, one audience, one way of marketing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all you do until you make $1 million. And then maybe you can think about, introducing an upsell or a downsell or something, but it still should be that same audience. And you'll just go so much farther. Like I see so many entrepreneurs like shoot themselves in the foot with too many ideas and going all different directions and they just don't get anywhere. You're like spinning your wheels and not going anywhere.
So I'm hearing that you're very disciplined, which is awesome. And I know that this carries over into how you now balance your life with having such a successful business and a large team and your family. What are
Yeah.
some practical things that you've got in place now, or even back in the day that maybe you had to learn that now you have in place
Yeah.
so that you can kind of keep that elusive balance that we strive for as mothers?
Yeah, honestly, getting help slowly as much as I could. Like I have a lot of help, well, not right now because of Corona, but I have a lot of help in my house and with my kids. But that was a learned thing. Like at first, I just tried to do it all. And I mean, I built my business the first at least year and a half working when my son was napping or asleep at night. I'd work till like midnight and then go to sleep. And I'd get most of my work done from like 8 to midnight because he was there. So you probably have to go through that phase. And I know people talk about getting help and you're like, but I can't afford it yet. And that's okay. But as you grow, like that balance is going to come from having help and not trying to do two full-time jobs, not trying to be a mom full-time, clean your house, keep everybody fed and all of that, and run your business. And I've kind of had like flashbacks to this with Corona. I'm like, this is why I have help because I cannot do this. Like something has to give. So, even if it's like free exchange with a friend for a couple times a week to get that time, because the best thing is to have that, like, this is the time that I work and then this is the time I'm with my kids. And I've always been very intentional with that. So I'm not trying to be on my phone while I'm trying to half play with them, because then you feel guilty. And so the best thing I can do is have quality work time and quality family time.
That's awesome. And I know you also take care of yourself. I've heard you talk about like, yeah, that like unplugged screen time, getting outside, taking walks. How do you think that that plays a role in your business success? Or
Oh,
do you?
huge. I mean, especially as you grow, like you have bigger problems that you have to solve, and you have to just be there a little bit more present and available. And I didn't always take care of myself. Like I was the last priority for a long time. It was like my kids, my business, and then me. Well, maybe my husband and then me. I was last. And so it wasn't until the last like 2 years that I really learned that self-care is so important. And I know it's talked about all the time, but it's so easy to be like, especially when you're in that situation where it's like every free moment you get, you want to put to your business. Because I've totally been there. You
Mhm.
have to just put in your calendar, like, I'm going to go for a walk every day, or I'm going to work out, and just like have that commitment. But I mean, it impacts me so much because I'm happier, but also it's so important as you grow to have that time, like free space time, to be able to solve problems and to see things differently and to not be like just overloaded, because decision making fatigue is real. And as you grow, like the harder decisions you're going to have to make and the more available you're going to have to be as a leader. And you can't do anything if you're not taking care of yourself. Like I can't be there right for my kids or my team or my husband if I don't start with me. And it sounds cliche because I know I've heard people say that, and I was like in a place where I was like, yeah, I know, but I'm not going to do it. But I promise once you start doing it, you never go back. And that's
Yeah.
what happened is I just started like adding in the self-care to the point where it's like, it was ridiculous. Like I'm getting so much self-care. I have days dedicated to it now, but I will never go back, like, because I know the difference in me with and without it.
Yeah, and the way that you're able to pour into your team, pour into your family as well. So let's talk future now. We talked past, current, let's talk future. What is something that you're working on that you're really proud of, or a goal that you're aspiring to? Or maybe right now it's just getting your help back in your family
Yeah.
here in the coming weeks.
Yes, I can't wait for that. Honestly, we're at about a 3 million run rate, and my goal from 3 to 10 is to just do more of what we're doing, like scale what's working. So we have our agency service, we have our Ignite Done With You course, and those are my two offers. That's all we do. I do webinars for them, my podcast, and like we're very hyper focused with that, because I do think like my path up until 10 million plus is just scaling what's working, and continuing to really grow my leadership team is super important so that they can manage the company how I was managing it, at one point. And so I put a lot of time into content myself, like my podcast and everything. And then leadership is huge, like just being available for my team and seeing problems. You become like at this high level, you see problems different than anybody in the day to day. You
Mhm.
almost have this like intuition where you're like, I'm going to dig a little bit more on that thing because I saw it from this high level meeting. It's kind of weird, but you totally go through that when you're away from the like grind of the day to day. You just see everything a little bit differently and more strategically.
I love that. Well, I have no doubt that you'll achieve those goals. So, something we do on all of these podcast interviews is give 3 tips in the area of your expertise. Like I said, to me, you're pretty synonymous with Facebook ads, which is a good thing. It means
Yeah.
that's what people are thinking of you for. So, if there's somebody who's listening who maybe is already working as a virtual assistant or social media manager and they're interested in getting involved in Facebook ads, obviously you're going to tell them to go roll up their sleeves, like dive in there. But what are 3 tips maybe that are current right now or strategies that they could use to be more successful?
Yeah. So I think that are current right now, one of the biggest things is that whether it's your client or you, put a lot of effort and time and money into that brand awareness and visibility is what we call it. It's a step of the Hirsh process, but that means content. That means like a podcast, a video, a blog, something that's purely just to connect with an audience. And we see so many of our clients, like the ones that do that really well, are super successful. And as we go in this industry, it's going to be so needed because you have to build that connection. So that's a big one. Honestly, the other, I'll say focus, because there's so many people who try to like market, they have a small budget and then they try to market all these funnels and all these things. So like they only get $5 a day or something to this small thing. And so if you can really focus on your strategy and have just one funnel that you're marketing for until a million, really, that will help so much. So that's two. And then let me think of a third Facebook one. Honestly, Instagram is definitely taking off with like working better than Facebook in some cases. So make sure you are very up to date with that platform. And if you're creating ads, they're created for Instagram, and you think about the customer experience on Instagram and the audience experience on Instagram, and you create content and ads that are relevant there and would connect with the person there.
I love that. And I will just give a tip number 4. If you are not already listening to this lady's podcast and you are interested in the world of Facebook ads, either for yourself or your client, you definitely should subscribe. And we will put that link for you guys down in the show notes. Okay, so last question, which we'll start with a sentence. So the entire mission of the Free Mama is to make sure that no mother has to choose between family and financial stability. Knowing that and knowing all of these women who are listening right now, what is one final piece of advice that you would like to offer to them if they are just getting started in their Free Mama journey?
I think it's kind of the theme of what we're talking about, of just get in and believe in yourself and do it. I think like I agree with you that confidence is probably the one thing holding people back, and just remembering that like everybody started somewhere. You are in charge and in control of the success that you create, and imagine your dream life, whatever that looks like for you, and then go do it. Like that's what I did. Exactly what I did, and made it happen. And so there's nothing stopping anybody listening from being able to do that.
I love that. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure to get to know you for the first time in real life. We were talking before the show. I've been watching you online for the last couple of years and watching your growth. And I know that I will be one of your biggest cheerleaders as you and your company make it to that $10 million mark. So thank you for sharing all your backstory and your expertise with all the Free Mamas today.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Free Mama Radio. Don't forget to check out Free Mama TV right here on YouTube for hundreds of how-to videos and interviews to help you start, grow, and scale a virtual business from home. If you want to join a community of tens of thousands of moms just like you, make sure you join the Free Mama Movement group over on Facebook. And lastly, if you want to learn more about how we can do this together, work to achieve your goals, and make you our next success story, check out my free training at thefreemamamovement.com. I'll see you next time.